Hello people, this is Cobra and this is Let's Play Dragon Age Origins Blind. I already handled all the selling and buying and stuff, so we can go directly to speaking with our companions and then get a move on. Good luck with that. Ah, well aware of that, I can see. Good luck with that then. I noticed that dogs can be, and I say that from experience, we have a dog, or rather my parents have a dog, that dogs can be incredible stupid and still incredible intelligent. Much like humans, actually.
What say you?
A
By all
question.
means.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
I know little enough of the Dalish other than the fact that my mother was one, or so I was told. She had fallen in love with an elven woodcutter and accompanied him back to the city, leaving her clan behind for good. And there, of course, the woodcutter died of some filthy disease and my mother was forced into prostitution to pay off his debts. Oldest tale in the book.
So the woodcutter was your father?
How should I know? My mother was a whore, as you'll recall. None of the other elven boys in the whorehouse knew their fathers. I was not so unusual.
Ah.
I didn't know my mother either, of course. She died giving birth to me. My first victim, as it were. We were all raised communally by the whores. It was a happy enough existence, ignoring the occasional beating. Until eventually I was sold to the crows. I brought a good price, so I hear.
Yet you're oddly cheerful about
It
it.
could have been much worse. Shall I tell you about what happened to the other whorehouse boys who did not fetch a decent price with the crows? Surely your life has not been so idyllic. People like you and I are not the product of happy lives of contentment, after all.
Some truth in that.
My original point is that my mother's Dalish nature was always a point of fascination for me. Through all the years of my crow training, the one thing of my mother's that I possessed was a pair of gloves. They were of Dalish make, I knew that much, and beautiful. I had to keep them hidden, of course, as we were not allowed such things. Eventually, they were discovered, and I never saw them again. I don't feel anything about them. Oh, we heard about them in the city, even deep in Antiva. I even had the notion once to run off and join them. Naturally, the reality did not live up at all to the fantasies I had constructed as a boy, staring at those gloves. But such is life. Come, enough talk of the Dalish. Let us move on.
Indeed. He handles it pretty well. There's something to be admired in that. Alistair,
Something on your mind?
questions?
Of course.
Yeah.
You mean other than becoming a Grey Warden?
Yeah. I mean, I know the dreams and all that, but is there anything else you should know?
You know, I asked Duncan this too, and all I got was, "You'll see."
He wouldn't tell you?
Oh, it's not that Duncan wants to keep it a secret, it's just that the Grey Wardens don't discuss it much. I gather it's not a pleasant topic. The first change I noticed was an increase in appetite. I used to get up in the middle of the night and raid the castle larder. I thought I was starving. I'd slurp down every dinner like it was my last. My face all covered in gravy. When I'd look up, the other Grey Wardens would stare, then laugh themselves to tears. Really? I saw you eating dinner the other day. Savage. Ah yes, the classy camaraderie of two men traveling out in the open. I take it you were like this before the joining then. Oh, and then there were the nightmares. Duncan said it was part of how we sense the Darkspawn. We tap into their, well, I don't know what you call it, their group mind. And when we sleep, it's even worse. You learn to block it out after a while, but at first it's hard. It's supposed to be worse for those who join during a blight. How is it for you?
Yeah.
Some people never have much trouble, but that's rare. Others have trouble sleeping their entire life. They're just more sensitive. Everyone ends up the same, though. Once you reach a certain age, the real nightmares come. That's how a Grey Warden knows his time has come.
This is bad.
Oh, that's right. We never had time to tell you that part, did we?
No!
Well, in addition to all the other wonderful things about being a Grey Warden, you don't need to worry about dying from old age. You've got 30 years to live, give or take. The Taint, it's a death sentence. Ultimately, your body won't be able to take it. When the time comes, most Grey Wardens go to Orzammar and die in battle rather than waiting. It's tradition.
Well, I suppose I'm already an average age, and, well, 30 more years, that's bound to give me... let's see... depending on how old I am now, it'll be 50, 60, 70. That's okay, I guess. Why else,
You'll always find Darkspawn down where the dwarves are. The oldest Grey Wardens head to the deep roads for one last glorious battle. Not that there's a shortage of Darkspawn during a blight, but that's the tradition. The dwarves respect us for it. And you wondered why we kept the joining a secret from the new recruits. There you have it.
Yeah.
You know, Duncan, he started having the nightmares again. He told me that in private. He said it wouldn't be long before he'd go to Orzammar himself. I guess he got what he wanted. I just wish it had been something worthy of him.
Yeah.
You know, ending the blight should make this all worthwhile, right?
Yeah. 30 years doesn't sound like much, but it's not like I'm newborn. I figure... probably reach the age of 70 or something. That's good enough for middle age, I think.
Something I can help with?
Well, not that I reach middle age, that's not what I mean, but this is like, kind of like middle-aged society, you know. So I guess if I reach 60 or 70 and then have to go down in a glorious battle, I suppose that's not so bad.
Yes? What's on your mind?
Yeah.
Where did you hear this?
Yeah, that would be me, reading stuff like that in history
And
books.
did you not think that this could be historical fact and no longer true? Not all minstrels are spies. Most are just singers and storytellers. But some of them are what we call bards.
You'll have to explain that.
Many use the two words minstrel and bard interchangeably, but to do so in Orlais would cause misunderstanding. Bards are minstrels and more. Spies, as you say. Some say there is a bard order, but I don't think this is true. Many bards work alone or in small groups, doing the bidding of a patron who pays for their services. If there is an organization behind it all, no one knows who they are. What do you think? They infiltrate, steal, sometimes assassinate? It depends on the bard. In Orlais, there is much rivalry amongst the Highborn. They fight over land, influence, and the favor of the Empress. But they cannot do this openly because it is impolite. And in public, they wear smiling faces and pretend to be civil.
Ah, a
In
masquerade.
secret, they plot and scheme to destroy each other. It is a game completely meaningless to anyone but its players.
Wonderful. And...
And I shouldn't I, after having spent most of my adult life as one? You've guessed as much, I'm sure.
hey, your class
But
is
does it
bad.
really matter what I was? What's past is past.
Yeah, but... you were in a cloister.
I found myself in Ferelden and sheltered from bad weather in the Chantry. And when the storm passed, I just did not want to leave. I like to see the Maker brought me here.
Yeah. You know, you're a good bard, but you really need to work on your lying. Or maybe not. I despise lying, but you're not really good at it, you know.
You're quite taken with each other, aren't you?
Excuse me? Oh! Yeah.
I've noticed your blossoming relationship, and I wanted to ask you where you thought it was going. She is a cunning woman, a Maleficar. She will use you for her own ends.
Well, I trust her.
I am telling you what I see and what my instincts tell me. And even if the feelings you share are genuine, this affair may not be the best thing for either of you. You are a Grey Warden. You have responsibilities which supersede your personal desires.
Love leads to fear. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to suffering. Do I look like a Jedi to you? I'm a human.
Love is ultimately selfish. It demands that one be devoted to a single person who may fully occupy one's mind and heart to the exclusion of all else. A Grey Warden cannot afford to be selfish. You may be forced to make a choice between saving your love and saving everyone else. And then what would you do?
Yeah. It seems like with head or tails, the result's gonna suck. But suppose you flip a coin enough times, one at a time, it may end up on the edge. I prefer to take the third option when I can. Yeah. Can't we save all this doomsday talk to when things get really bad?
Nothing is certain. Not in these times. You cannot take anything for granted. I want you to be aware of this.
I'll think about it.
I am just trying to minimize the suffering that may come to either of you. I have given my advice. Do with it what you will.
Good riddance, lady. You're nice and grandmotherly and everything, but jeez. Besides, when things are so dire and I can't take anything for granted, doesn't that mean that's the time I should be enjoying myself the most? Because, quite frankly, I might drop dead any moment from just about everything. I mean, jeez, just look at what we've been up against up to now.
What is your wish, Kadan?
Question.
I am hardly surprised. To put it lightly, no one has a place here.
Haven't we already heard
Wish
this?
to be merchants. The merchants. Very well. Speak then.
I can't remember what that is, but...
Ours wear the faces of men.
Like abominations?
No, they do not have the excuse of demons within them. Darkspawn, abominations, plagues, and storms. Men are far more dangerous than these. One moment of betrayal can bring more ruin than an earthquake. You know this.
So they're traitors?
They are Tal Vashoth. They say they are Grey Ones. True in the knowledge of themselves. They are gaping holes where men used to be. Nothing can fill them.
What's so terrible about them?
There was a village in the mountains of Seheron. Farmers. They grew cinnamon and nutmeg trees in perfectly ordered rows. There would always be one person waiting, a foreman, a harvester, rank didn't matter. Often they would say nothing. Simply watch as we worked to examine the empty house, a new one each time, that had once been the home of a colleague, a friend. We always made a point of searching. Now and then a body would turn up in a river eaten by rain and crows. More often we found nothing. Even in the worst parts of the jungle, the villagers would send someone with us to see the tiniest piece of bone or cloth. Anything contained the possibility of their lost friend. Must we speak of this? We could be fighting something.
Okay.
As you wish.
This obviously discomforts you. And if it discomforts you, then that makes me really nervous. I mean, geez, look at you. You have glowing red eyes. If something makes you nervous and uncomfortable... I mean, yikes. Jail.
It speaks.
Questions?
It doesn't have better things to do.
Not right now. Yeah.
I like to think of them as accessories.
Dwargold? What do they do?
I suspect that it is an art that was practiced when golems were more, commonplace. My former master collected whatever lore he could find on the subject. He searched far and wide to collect what crystals he could and then added them. It is not an unpleasant sensation.
It's a dwarven thing, then. And really, if it had only been out of practicality, I think she would have given me this long time ago. And it gives me more willpower. Many thanks. So, that's it for the camp episode. Let's get a move on. And since we're visiting the dwarves, I think we'll take Shale. We take an elf to the Dwarven City, of course. Morrigan or Wynn? Well, dwarves are resistant to magic, so probably better to have something to aid ourselves with. You know, just in case, because there's bound to be trouble. Because there's kind of trouble everywhere, if you haven't noticed.